Well, hello, everybody. Well, this is Bill with TaxSaleList.com, and at this point, all I can say is, wow, what an exciting turnout. Congratulations to all of you that are here with us right now. Now, we've already had to turn away a bunch of folks from today's training. The number of attendees in the webinar is capped, so we weren't kidding when we said that space was extremely limited. Now, we've had such a massive response to the special invitation for the webinar that you should all really consider yourselves lucky to have made it. Somebody's living right, that's all I have to say. I think we're going to have to do a few more of these sessions in order to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover all the good stuff that we plan to share with you over the next little while. All right, now, before we get started, I'd first like to welcome each and every one of you to our free introductory training on how to use your computer to locate, evaluate, and acquire real estate through TaxSaleList.com. Now, just a couple of items of housekeeping as we get going. First of all, I want you to feel free to ask questions during the presentation. However, with the room this big, we won't have a chance to do an open mic question and answer session. What we can do, however, is that we can make sure that you have the chance to ask your questions using the chat room interface. All you need to do is you go to the big white box, the chat box right below the window where you can see this presentation. Just click your left mouse button in the little window and just start typing your question. When you finish typing, you simply hit the submit button and your question is on the way. Now, that being said, I'd like to beg your forgiveness in advance. If you send in a question that I don't answer right away, it's not that I don't see it. It's most likely because I know that I'll get to that question at some point during the presentation. And so we're going to be moving fairly quickly here, so I hope that you have a pen and paper handy to take a few notes as we move along. But I'm going to do my best to make sure that everybody has the chance to get their questions answered. Now, the second thing that I'd like to mention is that I want this to be a very comfortable learning environment. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. We're all here to learn together. And remember, this is all about learning how to overcome your fears and to become familiar with how to really begin using your computer to generate some cash flow. So there aren't any silly questions, and we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome. So if you feel that this information is a little bit too basic, then I'd recommend you sign up for one of our advanced training courses. And we'll get you taken care of on a little bit of a faster track. However, today we're going to be taking everybody through a step-by-step example of how to locate, evaluate, and acquire some really nice real estate properties. All right, then, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first of all, let me give you a 10,000-foot view of why we're even doing this training in the first place. Now, we know that pretty much everybody here already has some background and experience investing in tax liens and tax deeds. We know that because most of you are either current or former subscribers to John Lane's tax sale listing service. Now, here's the thing. Not long ago, we sent out some customer surveys to try and really get a feel for what you as customers found most helpful about the service and where you really felt that we could stand to improve. The neatest thing for me is seeing a lot of you here in this training that gave so much great feedback. I recognize a lot of your names, and I'm really proud to show you how much we took that feedback to heart. Now, what we learned from the feedback was that most of you already felt comfortable with the concepts behind tax lien and tax deed investing. That wasn't the hard part. The hard part came where the rubber met the road, so to speak. Knowing the concept and how to invest in tax liens and tax deeds, that's all well and good, but you don't know how to actually find and evaluate those potential investment opportunities. And if you don't know that, then you'll never make it out of the starting blocks at all. So you end up finding yourself book smart but not street smart, so to speak. And what the feedback showed us was that there were people who really felt the need for some simple step-by-step applications of all of this wonderful training. Well, I'm here to tell you that we've taken all that to heart, and this is our first exciting step in that direction. So today what we're going to do is first, we're going to take a quick look at today's tax lien and tax deed investing environment, and we're not going to spend very much time there, but then we're going to take a simple step-by-step approach to see exactly how to take advantage of this really, really powerful time in history using a live, real-world example of an actual tax sale coming up in the next few weeks in Los Angeles, California. All right, now you already know how tax liens and tax deeds work. Now you just need to know how to apply that knowledge. So let's take things from start to finish. We're going to turn a little bit of information into some real-world money-making potential, and it all starts right here with TaxSaleList.com. So here we are on the TaxSaleList.com homepage, and I'm going to walk you through a real live example of how to use TaxSaleList.com to first locate, then evaluate, and finally show you how, armed with the right information, you can then have confidence in your ability to convert that knowledge into acquiring solid tax lien and tax deed investments and converting those into real potential properties. All right, so for most of you, this should already look pretty familiar. But if you haven't logged into the tax sale list system in quite a while, do yourself a favor and take a new look when you get a chance. Once again, based on the feedback from our customer surveys, we've made and are in the process of making some huge site-wide improvements, so be sure to check that out. Okay, so first we need to log into the website, and here's how we do it. Now, like I said, this might be old hat to some folks, but for others it may have been a while since you've had a look at this page. So obviously, if you don't have a current tax sale list account, you won't be able to log in, but don't let that worry you for now. Just write down a few notes and make sure that you're able to keep track so that when you do log in, this all looks familiar to you. Okay, so we come up here to the upper right-hand corner and we click on this button right here to sign in. Okay, so now we just need to put in our email address and password for the active account. And again, if you don't have an active account at this point, you would typically just click on this Registered Now link, but don't do it yet. There's a super secret way I'm going to show you here in just a minute. So here we put in our email address and our password, and then we click on the Sign In button. All right, now that we've signed in, we see these three buttons here: Tax Sales, Calendar, and Latest Lists. Now, for the purposes of today's training, I want to make sure to manage our time effectively, so we're going to end up spending the bulk of our time in this session on what matters most. So feel free to log in and navigate around the site to your heart's content, but for now, we're just going to take you step by step through the Tax Sales button. All right, so let's go ahead and click on Tax Sales, and we'll go from there. All right, so the first thing we see is a color-coded map of the United States with a little map key here showing which states are tax lien states, which are tax deed states, which are redemption deed states, and then the oddballs out there where it's a combination of tax liens and tax deeds based on what the county ends up doing. Like Nevada, for example, it varies by county. Now you'll notice that the map is interactive. All we have to do is we roll our mouse over each particular state, and we can click on that state to bring up the listing of tax sale information for that particular state. Now, for the purposes of this session, I have a very specific set of examples that I'd like to show you. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and click on the state of California. Now, once we clicked on the state of California, we get a list of tax sales for the entire state. Now, you'll notice that we have a little color key at the top of the table here that shows us which of the auctions are current or future auctions and which ones have already passed us by. Now, before you get too worried about that, I just want you to understand that just because some of these sales have already happened, it doesn't mean that they're dead to us. It doesn't mean that there's no further opportunity. In fact, all of these gray ones that we see here, these represent huge potential opportunity for us to do what's known as overages. Oh, if you don't know anything about overages yet, let me predict right now that overages are going to become one of your all-time favorite strategies in the very near future. So, like I said at the beginning of this session, we're going to be holding multiple training sessions moving forward, and we want you to be sure to understand that overages and a lot of other strategies are on the way. They're coming in the future, so stay tuned. You're going to love it. All right, now let me get back on track here. For the purposes of this training, let's focus on this upcoming tax deed sale that's coming up on October 19th, 2015. Now, from the information that we see here, we can see that there are a total of 50 properties or 50 parcels that are going up for sale at the auction. Now, assuming, of course, that none of these are redeemed between now and the date of the auction, anything that's redeemed between now and then obviously would be withdrawn from the list. Of course, this number, it's going to change between now and the auction. It's not going to go up, but it's probably going to go down as property owners of record. They figure out some way to pay off their back taxes before they lose their property at auction. But for now, we see 50 properties or parcels that are planned for sale at this particular auction. Now, the other information that you see here on the table is fairly self-explanatory. We see the state. We see the county jurisdiction. In this case, we're looking at Los Angeles County. We see whether it's a tax lien or a tax deed auction. And, of course, California is a tax deed state, so this is no surprise for us. We see that the scheduled date of the auction is coming up soon, and we see when the auction listing was originally posted. Now, this original post date that's important to us for a couple of reasons. First, it lets us know how much time's gone by since the list was posted by the county. The longer the delay between the posting and the auction, the greater the potential that the properties on the list may have been redeemed. And second, this tells us immediately what kind of window of opportunity you have to really have fun with another incredibly lucrative opportunity known as a pre-auction strategy. Now, we're going to actually talk about pre-auctions in next week's training, so be sure to sign up as soon as you can for that training, because if it's anything like this week, we're going to have to turn people away. In fact, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to take just a second, and I'm going to go ahead and enable the registration button here so you can start signing up for next week's presentation before we're even through here, just to make sure that you can reserve your seat. Now, pre-auctions can really bring in some quick cash, so don't you dare miss it. We want you to make sure that you attend next week. Okay, so moving on, we see this column labeled Standard. Now, this is a type of the list itself, whether it's a standard listing or in some cases we have access to what's known as an enhanced list, where we can actually find some really great additional information. So now we're very interested in doing some research on these LA County properties. So we're just going to go ahead and click on this little briefcase icon right here, and we're going to add this upcoming auction list to our shopping cart, or otherwise known as our briefcase. All right. Now we're inside the briefcase, and we can see our current requested list along with any other lists that we might have already downloaded previously. And remember, just like it says here, read this little fine print here. Dollar values listed above are merely for your personal reference. You will not be charged anything extra to confirm and download your selections. So let's go ahead and click on this Confirm Selections button. And now we can download the list. So let's go ahead and open that up and see what we can find. Okay, so the first thing we see here is some general information about the upcoming auction itself. Now, first of all, notice the link to the county tax sale website itself. Now, keep this handy because we're going to have a chance to look a little more closely at that here in just a minute. We can see the date of the sale, the time, and of course we can also see the location. All right, now further down, we can take a closer look at the items that we find here in the table itself. Okay, in the columns from left to right, first we have the auction items number. Now notice that in some of these cases the numbers are missing. They're not in sequential order. What do you think we can infer from that? Well, you got it. The ones that are missing here are the ones that were probably redeemed already and they were taken from the list. Okay, so this next column over, this one really isn't important to us, but I'm going to go ahead and take a minute and just explain it. What this is that one legal requirement for all tax lien auctions nationwide is that there has to be a published notice of the auction in the legal notices of the local newspaper wherever the property happens to be located. So this number that we see here is just the county tracking number for the particular, it's a code for each newspaper. They get their own particular code, and this is the code for the particular newspaper outlet where the legal notice was published. And like I said, it really doesn't matter anything at all to us, but that's what this number consists of, just so you know. Okay, next column over is where things really start getting interesting for us. Now, this is where we can check out both the legal description and the physical or the street address for the property. Now, this is going to be important for us here in just a second, so remember where we go to find this. And notice that this is kind of something else that's really interesting. Notice that some of these items listed here are labeled as vacant lot. All right, now I'm telling you, after next week's training on auction pre-sales, it's going to be like Pavlov's dog. It's hard to say. Pavlov's dog. Somebody will simply say the words vacant lot, and mark my words, immediately you're going to begin visualizing your bank account getting bigger. We love vacant lots, and next time you'll see why, but let's get back to the point. Next, we see the minimum bid column. Now, this is the amount of the back taxes owed for this particular property. Now, the county always starts bidding off high enough to cover the back taxes, and then, of course, bidding starts raging higher depending on the number of competing bidders at the auction. Next, we see this column labeled IMPS, right? IMPS. Well, you'll notice that the fields of the column are either blank or they have a letter Y. Now, this column is telling us whether or not the property has had any improvements, a Y for yes, and they leave it blank for no. Okay, and the final column here shows the county's parcel number. Now, you'll see that they've got two sets of numbers here, and this is, particular to LA County. but they've kind of changed over the last little while how they track these different property numbers. So they have a current number, which is the top one, and a prior parcel number, which is that bottom one. Now, the 2-digit number at the beginning of the lower one that you see here is the year when the property taxes for this particular property first went delinquent. Okay. All right, so we have this list, and now we need to know what to do with it. Okay, now everything that we've talked about to this point has really led up to this moment. And again, by a virtual raise of hands, I'll bet that most of you are here in this training simply because you made it this far on your own and you really didn't know how to take things further from here. Now, if that describes you, you've come to the right place. So how do we convert this extremely valuable information into something that we can actually act on? Well, the first place to start is to make note of the property's physical address. Now, like I said before, we love vacant lots, but let's hold off on the vacant lot discussion until next time. Keep in mind that some of the items aren't labeled as vacant lots, but if you don't see a street address listed, chances are it's also vacant land. So for the purposes of this training, we're going to take a look at a few of these properties, but we're going to isolate it to just the ones that have a physical street address listed. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to copy 3 items of information over into a single spreadsheet. So here I'm using Microsoft Excel, but you could use Excel, you could use Google Sheets, you could use Microsoft Word, or really any other tracking method that works best for you. All right, there are a number of different ways to do it. But in this case, what I've done is I've created a simple spreadsheet with 4 columns where I can track the auction item number, the street address for the property, the minimum bid, the county's parcel number. All right, those are the big 4 that we're going to bring over from that listing page. Now, for the purposes of this training, I'm only going to make note of the top number here in the last column, since that's listed as the county's current parcel number. Okay, so that current parcel number is the one we want to make note of in the spreadsheet. Notice that down at the bottom of the spreadsheet, I'm going to rename this sheet LA County Auction 10/19/2015. Now, the way I do that is I'm going to simply double-click my left mouse button over the top of where it says Sheet 1, and then I can just type in the new name over the top and hit Enter. So I do it like this. Okay, next we can create some column labels so we know what we're looking at when we copy the information over from the other spreadsheet. So we're going to add 2 additional columns to our Excel spreadsheet that weren't over there in the county listing. And I'll show you why we're going to add these here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and add a column for Estimated Retail Value, or ERV, and another column for Notes. Okay? All we need to do now is simply copy and paste the information over into our spreadsheet, and now suddenly we're aimed in the right direction. So let's go ahead and copy and paste over 3 of these properties from the list that we pulled off taxsalelist.com for further consideration. Now, we're going to ignore the vacant lots for now so that we can really do those justice next time, and I think you'll see why in the next session. Okay, let's just go ahead and start at the top, and we're going to work our way down here a little bit. Let's take a look at item number 10, for example. And looking through this, let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 22, and finally, let's take a look at a little bit lower priced one, like number 25. And of course, by lower priced, I mean it has a relatively lower minimum bid amount. Okay, so we'll look at 10, 22, and 25. Now, obviously, you're not limited to just 3. You could research any of these or all of these on the list. It's completely up to you, depending on how much time and effort you want to put into it. But for the purposes of this training, we're only going to focus on these 3. Okay, so let's copy the information for these 3 properties over into our new spreadsheet. So we have the item number, and this is going to be important to us later, so we'll keep track of this number. And then we'll copy over the street address of the property. And next, we're going to copy over the minimum bid amount. And finally, the current county parcel number. Okay, so now that we've got that information, now we can really start to have some fun. So once we're armed with the property address, we can start doing a little bit of our due diligence. And the first place that I would start is to take a look at two specific websites. We're going to look at a website called PropertyRadarcom and, of course, our friend Zillow.com. So let's go ahead and take a look at those now. Okay, so armed with this first one, we're going to take a look at our friend number 10. And we're going to double-click here and copy the property address. And you'll notice it's all kind of smashed together. That's okay. We'll be able to make sense of that here in just a second. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to paste it over here into our spreadsheet. All right, and like I said, don't worry if it's misconfigured. We'll be able to figure or fix that here in just a second. Okay, so that was item number 10. We're going to do the same thing for number 22. And I'm just putting a little bit of room here in between the different fields so that we can work on these a little bit later. Okay, and our property address. Notice that the legal detail, the legal description, is a little bit different, of course, than the property address. And it's really the property address that we're looking for here. So I'm copying that, and we'll put that over here in our spreadsheet. All right, and then finally we'll do number 25 as well. Okay, number 25, we double click and we'll copy that puppy over. All right. Now we're going to go back and grab the same things for our number 25, number 22, and number 10. We're going to look at the minimum bids. Okay. I'm just going to paste these over here. Okay. Okay, we just double check those numbers against our list. Those look right. Okay, now we need to copy over the upper number here, our property, our county current parcel number. So I'm going to copy that and paste that over here. Number 22. And number 25. All right, and that should do it. Okay, so we've got our auction item number, we've got the physical address to the property, we've got the minimum bid amount, and now we've got the property ID numbers, or the current parcel numbers, I should say. And all of that is powerful information for us. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is let's come back up here to item number 10, and we want to copy this address that we see here from field. Okay, and we've got our 8918 Megan Avenue. Okay. So we're going to copy that over, and now I'm going to open up another window over here, and what we're going to look for is first let's go ahead and take a look at Zillow.com, Zillow.com. And if you've never taken a look at Zillow, you're going to be amazed. There's a lot of really valuable information here, and this is a great free resource. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in, and you can see here I've already done it. We've got our friend 89 Megan Avenue, and it turns out it's in Canoga Park, California. Now, it was listed as being in Los Angeles over on the spreadsheet. That's how it comes out from the county, but it's actually in the suburb of Canoga Park. And how we can find that is you just start typing in the 8918 Megan Avenue, and Zillow will then pull up anything that's related to 8918, and sure enough, you'll see it's listed in Canoga Park, and that tells us the right one. Now, what are we looking for here? Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a little bit of research so that we can know whether or not this might be an opportunity, this might be a good potential investment for us, right? So let's take a look again. I'm going to move the research window over here just a little bit, and let's go back and refer to our spreadsheet. What was the minimum bid for item number 10? We can see it's okay, so the minimum bid for item number 10 is $38,445. All right, so let's pull up our Zillow.com page, and right here, this is what it looks like. You see this? 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,484 square feet, and here's the estimate. This is what the Zestimate, as it were. This is what Zillow believes that the home is actually worth on the regular retail market. So according to Zillow, this property is actually worth $558,841. Well, that's not bad, okay? So the minimum bid is going to start out at $38,445. Now, if we happen to go to the auction, what would we want to be armed with? Well, obviously, we want to know where the bidding is going to start, and we want to know where we're willing to go. Now, the whole purpose behind finding or buying a tax deed property is that there's potential that after the redemption period, we might have the opportunity to take possession of this property. We can own this property free and clear. We own the deed. That's what we're actually bidding for in the auction. So what if we were to allow ourselves to run up to half of the value of the property? Right? Let's say it's 200, just odd number here. Let's say 275,000 is the limit of what we're willing to do. Now, why would we want to limit ourselves if the actual Zestimate, as it were, is 558,000? Well, number one, we're going to have cash in order to pay off this property if we end up being the winning bidders. So unless we've got access to $250,000 in cash or even more than that, that's going to rein us in just a little bit. So we need to be conscious of where this could actually run and where our cutoff point is. And that's going to be relative and individual to everybody. But this gives us an idea of what it's actually worth. Now, if we actually were able to secure $250,000 in funding, and we were able to, or $275,000 in funding, and we were able to win that bid, what could we do with it? Well, after we have physical possession of the deed, we could do whatever we wanted to with it. We could move into the home. We could actually turn around and list it for sale at a discounted price. Let's say that we turned around and we listed this property for $500,000. Do you think we might have some quick turnaround? Well, that's a good question. We don't really know exactly what that's going to look like. So let me show you another website that we can get a little bit more detail. So this is a website called PropertyRadarcom. All right, PropertyRadarcom. Now this, unlike the other one, this is a subscription site. It costs about $30 a month, but it's certainly worth it if you consider yourself a serious investor. This is a great resource, and I'll show you exactly how we use it. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. We've got a subscription to Property Radar. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. And what we want to do is we want to copy in our address once again, our 8918 Megan Avenue in Canoga Park. And if we scroll down here a little bit, we've got 8918. There we go, 8918 Canoga Park, California. We'll hit our Go button. And there's some really powerful information that comes up here. And this is why I recommend doing both Zillow and also doing a Property Radar search. So there's a comparison here, and it gives us quite a bit more information. We've got a pretty similar number here on the estimated value compared to our friends over here at Zillow. They predicted or estimated $558,000. Property Radar, which is the more accurate of the two in my opinion, they've got an estimated value of $577,000. All right, that's good. That's something really powerful for us. The other thing is We scroll over here on the tax assessment. So the county is assessing the value of the property at $448,000. Right? There have been there's $270,000 of that is land value. In other words, if the house were torn down, that's probably what the lot would sell for. And then there have been improvements that total about $178,000. Okay, based on the tax assessments. Now, it's probably worth more than that. And combined, we see that's what helps us to build the estimated value of $577,000. Now, here's why this is important for us. If we scroll down here to the bottom, number one, it gives us some really powerful tools in the investment analysis, right? And we can show what the bid and offer and the target return on investment is, what the break even is. We can go through and look at what we might look at for cap rates based on a decision to rent the property and interest rates and so forth, and generate cash flow. All of that's really cool. It gives us a great little calculator. But what's really interesting is if we scroll down here a little bit, we can see what the risk profile looks like. And just quickly looking at these gauges, we can see, especially this one right here in the middle, time to resell. It looks like the time to resell at a regular retail price is about 60 days. So in other words, what we want to do is we want to look at the comparison here. We want to see what the pricing should be placed at in order for us to really see what it would take for us to have a quick turnaround and see if that's even worth our time and effort. Right? Now, obviously, if we could buy the home for $275,000 and we turned around and listed it for $500,000, we've got some large potential profit margin in there. But if we come down here and we look in the community of Los Angeles, California, we can see some comparable values. And we can see that the median price for housing is $470,000. Right? $470,000. So what if we looked for a quick sale and we lowered our asking price to $470,000? You think it'd turn pretty quickly? Yeah, I do. I think it'd turn pretty quickly because Canoga Park, in this property, and I'll show you why I think this, but it's actually got a pretty good potential, it's a pretty good resale value, and I think it wouldn't sit on the market for 60 days, for sure. We can also see the transaction history, and we can see, all of the different buyers and sellers over the years. In this case, we see that this Ivis Ellis is the trustee for this particular property, and that was also some information that we could find in the county reports for the tax sale itself. They're the ones who currently own the property, but it's about to be auctioned, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. So again, Property Radar is a very powerful tool. It can show us comps based on the same square footage and the same value per square foot. So like I said, this is worth it, in my opinion, especially if you're a serious tax lien, tax deed investor. Great resource, costs about $30 a month, but it's worth it in my opinion. Now there's one last thing that I'd like to do here, and we're going to open up another tab, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to maps.google.com. And now what we'll do is we'll type in our address again. This is our 9818 Megan Avenue in Canoga Park, and right there it comes up very quickly, Canoga Park, and right there we see the map view of this area. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on this little button where it says Earth, and that's going to change to an aerial view, like a satellite view of that area. Now here's what I want to do. I want to come over here, and you notice this little, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little paper doll looking character here, little icon. So what I want to do is I want to grab this little icon and I want to hold my left mouse button, and you see how it kind of swings like we're holding it by its hand, right? So what we want to do is we want to come over here and you see the green area that's highlighted below? That's kind of like its shadow. We want to put the shadow right there in front of the street, or in the street in front of that house. Now I'm just going to grab the mouse button and hold, and look at that, 8918. This is our property, and that is a good-looking property, at least from the front. Nice, a nice tile roof, looks like it's in good condition. A really nice landscaping, looks beautiful. No cracks in the driveway that look like they're from damage. In fact, a really nice little concrete inlay. Somebody spent a lot of time and effort. We scroll through here, look at the rest of the neighborhood, and what do we see? Well, this isn't isn't exactly a neighborhood full of crack houses. I mean, this looks like a really nice, well-kept neighborhood. Now, here in Street View, we can just click the button and we can scroll up the street. We can visit the rest of the neighborhood. Looks like a nice little cul-de-sac over in here. And you can see that by and by, it looks like people are taking pretty good care of their neighborhood, right? Which begs the question, okay, well, if this is such a nice neighborhood and this property really isn't run down, then why are they letting it go for sale for back taxes? $38,000 in back taxes, obviously, but why did it happen? Well, as you know, there are any number of reasons why people could lose their home to tax sales. And in some cases, it could be that not that they can't make the payment, but that they don't want to. You know, maybe this was an investment property and they couldn't keep up on the rent payments, and so they're having to let it go at tax sale. You know, there are certain circumstances, and you know, honestly, we just don't know. But you know, with a little bit more due diligence, we could figure it out. But really, at this point, it doesn't matter to us. We're just looking at it and doing our comparable research so we could see where we would be willing to go if we were to attend this auction and look at actually buying this property at auction. Now, here's the thing. We've got 2 other properties that we could look at, but we're a little bit pressed for time, so I'm not going to go into those. But I want you to have the opportunity to do that research, look at those properties, look at the list, and take a look at, you know, following the same exact recipe, the same formula to do some due diligence. We're going to look at Zillow. You'll look at Property Radar, and there's a free trial for Property Radar, so don't feel like you have to pay $30 to start with Property Radar. You just go ahead and sign up for the free trial and start doing some due diligence and research. And then, of course, we did maps.google.com, typed in the address, and sure enough, we can do the street view to take a look at it and see if it looks like we would actually enjoy owning this property. And personally, yeah, I think that's a nice looking home in a great neighborhood, and yeah, not too bad at all. I'm going to click back over here to the aerial view, and we see the little pin that marks the location. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm just scrolling my mouse button to do that. And as you look around, you see that there are a bunch of really nice homes. This is like the only home in the neighborhood that doesn't have a pool, it looks like, or one of the rare ones without a pool anyway. So, yeah, good-looking property, good-looking home, and gives us an idea of how high we might be willing to go if we were to bid on that home at auction. Of course, you got to keep in mind that the auctions in LA County are very, very competitive. There are a lot of people that show up at the auctions, and so it's important that you keep that in mind. You're going to have a lot of competition if you choose to invest in this particular property. So anyway, that being said, that's the process that we would go through. You need to identify what your number would be in your particular case to decide whether or not it would be worth it. If you have access to the funds in order to buy a property that, you know, you would be required to pay upwards of $275,000, maybe $300,000 at the auction in order to secure this property. But again, the median house income or the median house price is about $470,000. If you got it for even $300,000 and you listed it for quick sale at $470,000, you know, the neighbors might be upset because you're messing with their resale values, but at the end of the day, you would be able to make some pretty good profit pretty quickly. You'd make, you know, upwards of $150,000, $160,000 after fees and commissions and things. You can make some pretty good money pretty quickly on that. If you listed it that far below its real value, almost $100,000 lower than the estimated retail value of it, yeah, you could get some pretty good attention pretty quickly and turn around on that. But again, that's just kind of an example. Remember that this is also number 1 in the list, or very top in the list, and so you're going to have a lot of people that do the same research and stop here. So go through and look at these other 2 properties that we pulled up in the list and see if you can't find something similar, other opportunities. And don't stop there. Go through the entire list and do this exact same thing. Now, there's one other thing that I want to make sure that we have a chance to cover before we run out of time, and that is to go back to our initial tax sale list spreadsheet here. All right, and what we find here at the very top of this spreadsheet is some very, very important information. And right here in field B3, we see a link to the county tax sale website. Now, right here, in an instant, this shows you the value of a tax sale list subscription. How long would it have taken you to find this website? Look at that URL, right? Even searching for it, there's no guarantee that you would have found it. What we do as a company is we go through and we compile all of this information for you so you don't have to waste any time at all looking for these links to these county websites and so forth. So all we need to do now is simply with one click, we click on that link and we can go over to the Treasurer and Tax Collector website for Los Angeles County, and we can see all of the detailed information about this auction coming up on October 19th and 20th. We see the date, we see the time, and of course we see the location. Right? Now, this is important. Now, what's really important about this is I want you to scroll down just a little bit, and we're going to look at the auction requirements, the registration information, and the registration requirements. This is the detailed information that you need in order to successfully bid on these properties at this auction. Okay? So you need to read through from top to bottom, read the auction requirements first. And what we see here is that, number one, they only accept cash, cashier's check, or a bank-issued money order in order to satisfy those. The checks are payable to the Los Angeles County Tax Collector. They don't accept personal checks, business checks, two-party checks, or checks payable to anything other than the Los Angeles County Tax Collector. You need to pre-register in order to participate at the auction. There is no registration at the auction itself, so it's important that you understand the requirements and you pre-register. Now, you can see here that the date of registration, it's coming up quickly. Okay, it's September 14th through October 2nd, so at the time of this webinar, this is coming up quick. So you've got to be able to act on that. The time for the registration is Fridays from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, I should say, and it shows you where to register and the contact number. Now, also, under registration requirements, it shows that the pre-registration closes on October 2nd at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You must register in person at the registration location, and there's a $5,000 registration deposit required. Okay, you go through and you read through the rest of these. By the way, whenever you see the acronym TCC or TTC, that stands for Treasurer and Tax Collector. All right, that's what that means. TTC is Treasurer and Tax Collector. Now, what happens is you got to understand if you pay the $5,000 to register and you don't end up buying any properties at the auction, they'll give you your money back, but they're not going to do it at the auction site or the day of the auction. They have up to 30 days to refund your money. Okay, so anyway, keep in mind those are the terms and conditions, and it shows you all the details, and you can go down through there. So what does all this mean for us? Well, it means that in this example, going through and looking at this particular property and this particular auction, this would be information that's very valuable for somebody living in the area there in Los Angeles County, California. What if you live in Memphis, Tennessee? Well, the same instructions apply, right? The same general techniques apply. You just need to have access to your own local lists. Now, armed with those local lists, you can have access to exactly the same sort of information that we see here. It's all about having access to the list. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've really found this training both enlightening and entertaining. Now, I want you to know that there's never been a better time to invest in tax liens and tax deeds. With the economy the way it is and so many people that are struggling, there's an amazing opportunity. But, the nice thing is that investing in tax liens and tax deeds, we're not kicking people when they're down. We're actually giving them additional options and ways out of their financial situations. And especially when you look at some of these other strategies that we're going to talk about over the next couple weeks, you're going to really appreciate where we stand is the ability to come in and really help people out of their situation. So I want you to know that every single month there are auctions all across the country, and many of those they allow you to really do your research and actually participate in the auctions right from the comfort of home, right over your computer. So it's important that you have access to the list and get the correct information to know exactly where those opportunities lie and where you have the chance to do research from anywhere. And just like we saw with LA County, in that particular case, you needed to be present in order to participate at the auction, but that's not always the case. In lots of instances, you can do the entire thing from start to finish completely online. Now, the key to your success is not just in knowing what tax liens or tax deeds are, it's in getting access to the actual tax sale listings so you have the opportunity to unlock your full potential as a tax lien and tax deed investor. Now, let me share something very special with you. Now, you remember when I told you back when we first logged on to the taxsalelist.com site, I mentioned that if you didn't have an active account, you could always just click on the registration link and you could set one up. Now, remember how I told you that there was another super secret way to get in? All right, now here's the secret. Because we've had the chance to drastically improve the way that we're doing things, and because all of you have been so instrumental in helping us to effect that change, we want to give back something in return. Now, obviously, when we talk about things like how to use your computer to buy tax sale properties, and especially when we start talking about other training and other concepts like pre-auctions and overbids, you'll need access to timely listings so you know which strategy to employ. Tax lien and tax deed sales, pre-auctions, overages, 3 different ways to make use of the same single list. And just like in today's training, we're going to be taking you step by step through each and every one of those in future sessions. But you have to have a list in order to get started. So by way of thanks for all that you've done to help us improve, and in order to welcome back all of those former subscribers that may have dropped off the list just because you didn't know where to start or what to do, we're going to give you an amazing opportunity. I want you to click the link below, and you'll have the chance to resubscribe to the tax sale listing service and get 6 full months of access to the nation's premier tax lien listing service for only $97. That's almost 50% off the regular price. And what's more, we've never done this before, and it's only available to those of you who are watching this presentation. We're going to give away more than $1,500 worth of training absolutely free. When you sign up right now for this discounted subscription price, you're going to get all of these amazing training resources absolutely free. Now let's take a look at this list. I mean, these are some powerfully important pieces of information. Great pieces of resources or of information that we've compiled over the years. Very, very valuable stuff here. So I'm incredibly proud to be able to be part of this program. You're going to be amazed at the doors of profitability that this training opens up to you. And like I said, tax liens and tax deeds, you probably already know about, but auction pre-sales and overages, all that are brand new concepts to you. So these training courses, coupled with our ongoing weekly training sessions, can really help you overcome your fears, build your confidence, and empower your success as you bridge the gap between education and application. Now, you have the knowledge right at your fingertips. You just need the tools to make it happen. Take advantage right now of this exclusive limited-time offer, $97 for 6 months of comprehensive tax sale lists in areas all across the country. There's no long-term obligation. At the end of the 6 months, if you don't like it, no problem. You simply don't renew. Now, remember, this is a limited-time offer by way of thanking you for your feedback and support that's helped us to make an already great program even better. Don't miss out on the limited time offer. Simply click the registered link to gain instant access to the tools and training that make all this possible. Register now, and you'll also reserve your place in our training next week, where we'll show you how we love or why we love vacant lots so much using the pre-auction strategy to generate some quick cash flow for just pennies on the dollar. Register now, and we'll see you again next week. Sorry, folks, we're out of time. Thanks, everybody. This is Bill with TaxSaleList.com, and we'll see you again next time. Take care and have a great week.